Welcome. My name is Justin, and I'm an addict, and I've been actively working the steps in the rooms of recovery since September of 2013, and I'm grateful to be sober one day at a time, thanks to my God, the steps, and the fellowship of other addicts. RICO 12 is an organization with the mission of learning and sharing the similarities of addiction of all kinds, and gaining and sharing tools and hope from others who are walking a similar path. Speakers from our past meetings have represented many fellowships and identify with addictions with such variety as alcoholism, drugs, food, sex, gambling, theft, just to name a few. Each Friday at noon Central Time, we hold a live lunch hour speaker meeting with a recovering addict from anywhere on earth, pertaining to any or no faith tradition, and with any background, who shares their experience, strength, and hope on a specified recovery topic of their choice. They share for 20 to 25 minutes on that topic, and then we, the live audience, get the opportunity to ask questions of that speaker for another 20 to 25 minutes. Before I introduce our guest speaker for today, I have a quick and exciting update to the 12-week series that RICO 12 is starting and doing on each of the 12 steps of recovery, and that starts on March 4th. We have now filled every step with great speakers. Thank you all for your willingness to either share yourselves or refer me to someone who would be a great speaker on a particular step. It should be a great 3 months of meetings to introduce or reinforce the importance and power of each of the steps of recovery. Donations and podcast ratings and reviews are greatly appreciated, and details on doing that will be in the chat of the live meeting and in the show notes of the podcast. We received a new review this week from a listener who says, quote, RICO 12 books excellent guests for the show. Not only do they have solid recovery, they are a diverse group with different stories and backgrounds. I highly recommend this show as a no-nonsense recovery booster. Thanks so much for those kind words and for your review and five-star rating. If you are listening and also feel that RICO 12 is of value, please consider rating and reviewing the podcast in Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. It's a great way to help get the message out to more addicts who suffer and are seeking tools for recovery. Thanks to you listeners, this podcast has now been listened to, and this is crazy to me, over 37,000 times in 88 countries around the world. And more than 20% of those listeners are outside of North America. That's so cool. I'm so grateful for that. Thank you all. We look forward each week to receiving the light reflected from our speakers. That light inspires hope, meaning, worth, and growth in us, the listening audience. Now, let's introduce our guest speaker for the 89th RICO 12 meeting, Cheryl S., whose topic today is Humiliation to Humility, Phase 2 Recovery. Here's a little bit about Cheryl. She often says Slowbriety. She is 26 years in recovery. Her great dependency on human aid was killing her. It took on the form of para-alcoholism and codependency. She made it to Al-anon, and after many years there, went on to several other 12-step fellowships, Overeaters Anonymous, Food Addicts Anonymous, and Debtors Anonymous. These fellowships helped. However, she had lots of information with very little transformation. After reading an article published by Bill W. in 1958 called The Next Frontier, Emotional Sobriety, she arrived at the door of Adult Children of Alcoholics, ACA. This is where her life started to take on a new meaning. She can honestly say that she is coming to a state of consciousness, awakened spiritually. Step 2 is not that I am crazy or insane, rather the Latin term Sanitey. I'm going to guess that's how I pronounce it. The condition of having a healthy mind. Take it away, Cheryl. The floor is yours.
Hi. Thank you, Justin, so much. Oh, yeah. I'm going to talk a little bit about Sanitey. Yeah. Thank you so much for this platform, Justin. I am really excited. I'm a little nervous. Ego, she's been having her field day this week. Me and my sponsor, Nikki, we sort of had it out because of ego. And everybody knows how ego works. Self-will run riot. And she kindly reminded me that I'm here for God. I'm the vessel. Calm down. So yes, I'm Cheryl S., and I'm a grateful member of a worldwide fellowship. And I'm so grateful. After 26 years, I came through the doors of Al-anon. I moved through the ranks, OA, FA, DA, ACA, SLAW, and here I am, spiritual gangsters on the wall behind me. And Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Bill W. And in my opinion, he's a wordsmith and a modern day prophet. Um, I want to thank him for giving people like myself freedom. The 36 principles, a way of life, the steps that keeps me from suicide, the traditions, homicide, and the concepts, the meeting I attend once a month, genocide. We used to say that in Al-anon. And boy, is that true. And I used to pick up this lady when we used to drive everywhere to our meetings, Jane, and she would just say a few words each meeting, the same words. Change you must or die you will. I said, this radical, crazy woman. But lo and behold, she had a purpose, and she knew exactly what she was talking about in just those few words. I have a favorite paragraph, and this is one of my all-time. I have many favorite paragraphs in the big book, but it's one of my all-time favorites, and I want to read that. And it comes from the forward to the first edition. Bill W. published in 1939, and in my opinion, this just says it all for me. And I tweaked it to fit me. It says, we have any anonymous, more than millions of men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. The mind, the obsession, the body, the allergy. To show other addicts precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book. For them, we hope these pages will prove convincing that no further authentication will be necessary. We think this account of our experiences will help everyone, not just you. Everyone, Cheryl, is a very sick person. Everyone to understand the addict better. Many do not comprehend the addict is a very sick person. And besides, we are sure that our way of living has its advantages to all. And I love that so much. I love that paragraph. My greatest fear from day one, over 26 years ago, was my fear of being alone. And my greatest desire was to have this romantic encounter, that someone was going to come in and rescue me. And I thought that my mission was to rescue others, but honestly, I was looking for someone to rescue me. And so therefore, in turn, I went out in life and tried to rescue other people and fix other people and control other people to get what I needed. And I needed someone to love me, someone to like me. That's how my para-alcoholism, my codependency looks. That takes me to fearless. I learned in fellowship that fearless is to do a fearless inventory. There's 3. The mother of all inventories, the 4th step. The 10th step, the spot check inventory that I do on a daily basis. And the 11th step nightly review. Those are so very important, and I realize that now. And to do it anyway, to do it afraid. I had to learn how to invite fear in and sit down and have a conversation and not run from it. And so it was my emotional dependency. I thought I would find happiness. I thought I had to try harder and harder and harder, that I had to keep hope alive. And that's how I ventured out into recovery after I had tried everything else, so many other avenues before I got to the rooms of recovery. And so I need to talk about, I came to RICO 12 by way of spiritual gangsters, but I need to first talk about ACA and how it led me there. I came to ACA after 20 years of recovery Lot of information, very little transformation. I had a question, and it was wearing me down. And that question was, what's wrong with me? I just couldn't figure out, after all these various fellowships, I was very resentful at my higher power, which was my higher power of my family of origin. I called him an emergency room God. Will you please just put a Band-Aid on me and let me go? And that's how I live my life in recovery. And so that piece talks about the humiliation part. Lots of information, very little transformation. And on the big book, in the big book, page 30, it talks about that humiliating state for me, humiliation, pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. I was knocking at the gates of insanity or death. And this is real, people, because I remember, and I was thinking about this today, I remember at the age of 16 where, I thought, probably would be better if I just took these pills. And I remember throughout my recovery where I would say times like, why am I here? What is my purpose, God? Why am I still living? I never really tried to commit suicide, but I sure had some crazy thoughts in my head. But at 16, I did. I have that threefold disease, the body, the allergy, the mind, the obsession. But the key piece for me is my will. That spirit that, I just wanted to I just knew I could, fix it. I knew I had a God. I didn't bother to read the agnostic. I've been reading a big book way before Spiritual Gangsters. I didn't bother to read We the Agnostics because I had a God. I didn't need to read that. So I bypassed that. It says on page 64 of the big book, when the spiritual malady is overcome, we will straighten out mentally and physically. Wow, that's a very powerful statement there. And now I understand it. I'm a multidisciplinary addict. I'm addicted. My addictions look like this. Not substance abuse, process addictions. I'm addicted to people, places, and things. I'm addicted to worry. I'm addicted to fear. I'm addicted to validation. I'm addicted to grandiosity. I'm addicted to love. I'm addicted to men. I'm addicted to food. I'm just compulsive. And, this is how I show up in life. If not for the 12 steps. Here's where the phase 2 process of my recovery started to kickstart. I have a threefold illness. And when that threefold illness is triggers the mental obsession, here's a missing piece. Step 1 is the only step that I have to take at 100%. And I was missing the second half, the understanding. I knew that my dilemma was power, and I wasn't the power. I didn't understand the second half of step 1, which is the unmanageability piece. I was looking at unmanageability externally. My life was unmanageable. Well, hell, everybody's life is unmanageable externally, but I just didn't get it. So how that looked in my life was that, there's something wrong with me. My life is so unmanageable, and I just can't figure it out. I kept trying to be better and better, and I just, what it turned out to be is, perfectionism. I became a big liar. I walked in a chameleon. So I walked around lying all the time, trying to be like everybody else but myself. And I didn't know who I was. And I finally realized that the unmanageability piece is internal. Every single thing is internal. Page 55 in the big book talks about deep down within all of us, there you will find him. It talks about as if he is a friend. That's one of my favorite pages because I was looking for that friend in everybody. God, I missed it. I was trying to have an intimate relationship with everybody except my higher power. And how is that possible? How do I love myself? How do I love you if I don't have a loving, intimate relationship with my creator? That was my missing piece. Internally, I was restless, irritable, and discontented. That's the second part of step one. Man, when I figured that out, that really changed things for me. When I figured out just how selfish and self-centered my codependency, my para-alcoholism is, it's a very self-centered, selfish manifestation. It's a disease and it's deadly. So I ventured out and I started to think about, okay, so now what? And it makes me think about, in layman's terms, ego. And just like in step two, let me go back. Okay, so I talked about step one. I want to talk about how step two, I sort of decipher step two. Sanitey. I did not like step two. I didn't even like to say it because I wasn't insane. I liked more so Tony A. See, Bill W. collaborated with Tony A., who wrote the Big Red Book of ACA. It's all there. He's a genius. So I liked Tony A.'s step two, where it talks about being restored to clarity. But now I love Bill W.'s step two, the original step two, because being restored to sanity, the Latin term sanitary simply means being restored to health, being restored to sound mind. And I was like, my God. Then I realized that ego, okay, how do I get rid of ego? Well, step 6 and 7 said we cannot remove anything. We can get entirely ready, but that's God's responsibility. Then I started doing some research into ego. The Latin term for ego is I, self-identity. It's completely impossible for me to remove my addictions, for me to remove my fears. It's impossible. I can't do it. So what I had to realize is that I needed a power greater than myself. Here comes step 2. Here come we the agnostics, my favorite page 55. I tell my sponsees today, we have to keep coming back. If we could do this on our own, or we could do it once and be done, if we don't have to go deeper and broader, then we don't need a God. It's the whole design is in life is that I rely on a power greater than myself, my creator. Otherwise, why would I need the 12 steps? Step 1, my dilemma, I'm powerless. Step 2, my higher power helps to restore me to sanity, a spiritual awakening. I stop sleepwalking. I become conscious to a spiritual way of life. Step 3, I take that commitment. And that's exactly what step 3 is, a commitment. And then I go through steps 4 through 9, and I live a way of life is steps 10, 11, and 12. So in step 10, the axiom, I use this step more than any other step. Step 10 is the axiom of step 10 is that whenever I'm disturbed, I have to look internally. And so how do I do that? Steps 4 and 5. Step 11, I have to build that intimate relationship with a power greater than myself on a daily basis. How do I do that? Step 6 and 7. Through my notebook right there where I write my 7-step prayers. Step 12, I have to ask myself daily, who am I? I ask myself that all the time now because I didn't know. Who am I? What is my purpose? What are my principles? What do I believe in? Then I carry that message to others. I had to learn that altruism, the closest I can get to unconditional love, is self-sacrifice through altruism. Well, how does a self-centered, selfish, codependent like myself do that? Not easy when I'm walking around full of ego that I can't get rid of. I need a power greater than myself. I need a fellowship. I need to work these steps on a daily basis. I need a way of life. My higher power has given me that. And that's what I do. But prior to that, I wasn't doing it. Not in these terms. I got better, but I wasn't living a life along spiritual lines. I wasn't emptying out. I wasn't filling up. I wasn't carrying a message. I came to Spiritual Gangster vowed. I don't need a sponsor. I'm going to do it ACA's way. I'm going to do a fellow traveler. I don't need sponsees. I have 6 and counting now. I just said, forget it. I'm not even going to put a number on it anymore. I'm going to get you through the steps. I'm going to, talk to you and do whatever we do together. And I'm going to just let God handle it. That's how my life looks today. I started to come to a place of humiliation once I started to understand how the process works. I moved from humiliation to humility, is what I meant to say. And I want to talk a little bit about how the bedevilments and how the traits, because my 2 main fellowships now are ACA and Spiritual Gangsters, because Spiritual Gangsters gives me Al-anon, CODA, SLAW, Debtors Anonymous, all that. My sponsor is there. I went through the steps. We have a monthly workshop where we do a 4-hour workshop of the steps through this beautifully designed 30-page workbook. www.bigbooksponsorship.org. And that's how I take my sponsees that need to go through the steps through that workbook. And that's where I refer them to. And that's what we use. And for them to take their sponsees and so forth and so on. I love Spiritual Gangsters. But I want to talk a little bit about the bedevilments. This is how they looked on me. And if I don't work the steps on a daily basis, this is who I am. Having trouble with personal relationships. I'm very critical and judgmental towards myself and other people. In my family of origin, we prided ourselves in sarcasm. The better, the more, the better. We wore it like a glove. Unable to control our emotional nature. Delayed gratification. I want what I want when I want it, and I'm going to do anything I can to get it. To realize I didn't even want it. I married 2 men on that concept. Or correction, I married 4 men on that concept, and I had 2 marriages. So let me be rigorously honest. I was emotionally immature, underdeveloped. I could not manage my emotions. That came from being born into a family of alcoholism and dysfunction. We could not manage our emotions. We remember, alcohol is not the cause. is the effect. Being prey to misery. Real simple. I was a common denominator. Depression and fawn. I was walking around trying to be flattery and exaggerated attention, regardless of how poor people were treating me. I just did not want to be alone. Manipulation. Here's the link. It was the way I was it was a way I thought I was get what I wanted to get. It was actually a way of manipulation. So in essence, I was walking around for all this flattery and exaggerated attention, but it wasn't poor Cheryl. It was a form of manipulation to get what I needed. It wasn't what I wanted. It was what I was needed. I was a dependent personality and I was desperate. Not being able to make a living. I always had a great job. I was irritable, restless, and discontented. Life is supposed to be externally unmanageable, but internally. The second part of step one. Another huge missing link in my life. I was not tapping the power within. I want to read this. For deep down in every man and woman and child is the fundamental idea of God. It may be obscured by calamity, pop, worship of other things, but in some form or other, it is there. And then I'll go down. We finally saw that faith in God was a part of our makeup, just as much as a feeling we have for a friend. I finally found that friend that I was looking for. But this friend doesn't steal from me and leave the door open and take off, right? This friend doesn't say, I love you and disappear. Having a feeling of uselessness. My unworthiness syndrome plagued me constantly. This is how I moved towards people. 3 simple ways. I got angry, I people pleased, or I sulked in silence. That's how my relationships looked. Being full of fear, terrified, dependent personality, terrified of abandonment, do anything to hold on to a relationship in order not to experience painful abandonment issues. And I would say, well, I wasn't left on the doorstep, so what is this thing about abandonment? Emotional abandonment. I wasn't left in a corner, but childhood trauma, I didn't get what I really needed. That emotional connection, that spiritual peace. Unhappy, no real help to others. I was not enough. So Lord knows I didn't want to sponsor. Ego was too big. I couldn't let others sponsor me because, of fear of authority figures. And then, as soon as you say the wrong thing to me, I'm going to come out fighting like an attack dog. So I'm going to turn into that authority figure. So it just didn't work. Then I'm going to blame you. Wasn't doing that what is our 10th step axiom? Poor me. Oh my God. And you know what? The greatest lesson in recovery for me today is that, now that I know to embrace myself wholeheartedly, that I don't have to take anything away from myself, that I am to love and embrace myself unconditionally. I don't try to be better and better, love better and better. I just try to love myself better. I just show up and I do the steps. God will take care of the rest. I love that. The work is an inside job. My full dependency is on my swag. That's my higher power. I always wanted this swag nigga. Well, I got him. I do my 3 inventories. I require my sponsees to do their 3 inventories. The 4th step, the mother of all the inventories. The more I do it, the deeper and broader it gets. That 10th step, spot check it. Nightly reviews. How did my day go? Work with others, self-sacrifice. I now understand the closest thing is that unconditional love. Page 85. You know what? I used to read page 85, neutrality. What is that? Recoil like it's a hot plate. What is that? It's freaking recovered. That's what it is. Recovered does not mean I'm cured. Recovered means I'm placed in a position of neutrality. Recovered means I'm working the steps. Recovered means I'm showing up, not attending meetings, because meeting makers don't make it. That was a falsehood back in Al-anon. Meeting makers make it. Meeting makers don't make it. We go to meetings to identify. That's it. You have to work the steps. To be placed in a position of neutrality. Recovered. It's in a preface. Here are the
Cheryl,
traits.
Let's wrap this up here in the next minute or two, but you're doing awesome. This is amazing. Wrap it up
right here. So let me say this about spiritual gangsters. A strong solution and sponsorship-based fellowship. We have several meetings 7 days a week, the monthly workshop, bigbooksponsorship.org. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here today. I want to give a shout out to my sponsor, Nikki Priya, who walked me through the big book. Thank you so much. I want to also say, and I won't have time for the laundry list, but I do want to say this. Today, where I'm at, this family disease has changed my life because I'm breaking a generational curse. My kids, I have 3 girls. My daughter tells me that I'm the most sanest person she knows. My best friend and my cousin, who are my 2 ride or dies. For my best friend for over 40 years. Are connected with a cousin after 4 years. My grandkids are an example of my inner children, my offspring, who are loving and precious. And my recovery partners, who I reach out to a few good recovery partners on a daily basis. I'm so grateful today. So I'll wrap it up there. And I just want to thank you so much again, Justin, for having me here. I could have talked so much more. And I knew that I wasn't going to be able to get it all in. But I want to say God bless you and thank you so much. And thank my audience for the 33 people here that showed up for me today. And I'm ready to take any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cheryl. And we'll definitely have to have you back in the future and have you share a little bit more, because I think your experience, strength, and hope is inspiring. Thank you.
Thank
All right.
you.
Quick reminder to our live audience: if you have questions for Cheryl, please type them in the Q&A link at the bottom of your Zoom window. It looks like 2 speech bubbles over the top of each other. We've had a few questions come in, and I've written down a few here. So we'll get started right on those questions here. The first one that came in from Nikki, our Nikki M, our most famous, as you put there, as your daughter calls you, the most famous person you know. Nikki M is our most famous guest speaker here. And she says, Cheryl, yeah, you've been here many years. How do you improve conscious contact after 26 years and still stay enthusiastic?
Well, actually, I'm going to make a correction here because I'm very new to spiritual gangsters. I've only been here maybe not quite a year, let me say that. And pose the question to me again, Justin.
Yeah, so how do you keep improving your conscious contact after 26 years and remain so enthusiastic?
Oh, okay, after 26 years, remain so enthusiastic. Well, I did not, over the 26 years, remain enthusiastic. By the grace of God, I kept coming back because I felt so safe and at home here in the rooms of recovery. other than anywhere else that I tried. And I tried many places and I did many things to try to figure out what was wrong with me. So my enthusiasm is that just connecting with people like myself. It talks about that in the big book. We addicts can, talk to another addict and get that message across like no other. And so, yeah, that's it.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. A question from Yuri, one of our live audience members. It says, amazing speaker. And then he asks, what is spiritual gangsters? And I know you've shared a little bit about that, but why don't you kind of dig in there and share what it is, how maybe somebody can find it. And I've got a link here that I'll put in the show notes of the podcast and also in the chat of the meeting. It's in there now, but okay. Where they can find that family of recovery meetings. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Thank you so much. Okay. So spiritual gangsters is a fellowship where we come together and we live according to the big book, the undiluted message. We are a solution-based, sponsorship-based fellowship. And Justin, please definitely post the link because we are on in WhatsApp, we're on Zoom, we have meetings daily, 7 days a week throughout the day. And it's real simple, and it's simple but not easy. We show up, we do the work through the book, the big book. Yes, that's our recipe for life, a way of life. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And that link is in the chat of the live meeting. Nikki M posted it a few minutes ago, and it will also be in the show notes of the podcast for people listening to the recorded podcast. All right, we have a question come in from an anonymous guest. In early recovery, how important is regular conversation about your life with your sponsor? Not necessarily as falls under step work. I speak with my sponsor weekly and usually step work only. Sometimes I worry that they don't know me well. Does that matter?
It matters to me. It matters to me. And I have a weekly meeting on Mondays and Thursdays, and we talk about that a lot. And, what I say to my sponsees is that, you have to learn how to build a way of life around the steps unique to you. Now, I have 6 sponsees now. So I have a few that I talk to weekly. I have 2 that I say, reach out and we talk through text, WhatsApp, telephone call daily. 10 minutes, 15 minutes chat, nothing real heavy. So it just depends on the individual person and how you want to show up in your recovery. Yes.
Thank you for sharing that. And I feel, I typically don't do this, but I feel to share a little bit about how I get to know my sponsees and how my sponsees and my sponsor get to know me. I journal every day and I share my journal with them, my daily journal. And I invite them to do the same with me. And that really helps me get to know them and understand, maybe some of the trials they're going through. And it also gives me a good insight into any red flags that are going up as, just doing step work. Sometimes, red flags are apparent, but other times it's in their daily lives that or in my daily life where those red flags become more apparent. So
absolutely,
that's one way that I get to know my sponsees better.
And I want to say, Justin, too, is our nightly review, because I ask my sponsees to send me their nightly review and I read it. I take the time to read it and I do reply back sometimes, more times than others, with a little nod or something I've noticed. Exactly. Because the premise is to get to know the people that you are journeying on this journey with. And so who better than your sponsees? Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. All right. We have this is a comment, but it comes in from Hattie. Hattie says, wow, powerful share, Cheryl. I'm so grateful to recover with you shoulder on shoulder. I am learning so much from you and with you. Your presence is making the difference in my recovery path. Thank you for your everyday service. So that's very kind of her to say.
It's very kind. I love her so much. Kisses, Patty.
Awesome. Another question from Danny. Danny says, how do you continue to enlarge your spiritual life?
Oh, hi, Danny. Yeah, I show up. And you know what I'm going to tell you? Green and growing. I used to be like, green and growing. I've been here 20 years. I'm finished growing. I love green and growing. Green and growing keeps me fresh. It keeps me seeking more research and development. It keeps me understanding the process of my recovery. It keeps me in the light. You know, we used to say in Al-anon, try at least 6 meetings before you make a decision. Well, you know, I try different meetings. I do phone bridge meetings in ACA. I do a lot of service there. I do tradition meetings. I do a concept meeting once a month. I was on a meeting yesterday. I found out like AA has 568 groups, AA alone, over 5 million members, you know, things like that, you know, so I just try to stay green and growing, and I'm grateful for that.
Love that phrase, green and growing. I love it. All right. A question comes in from Naika, who has been a speaker in this meeting before. Good to have you back here as an audience member, Naika. Naika says, sponsor me, baby. My sponsor won't mind. Haha. Thank you. You mentioned how you used to choose men as partners and how you used to operate unhealthily. How has God and this recovery process changed your relationship ideal? What has been the greatest change in how you relate to others overall?
Oh, wow. That is so good, Naika. My greatest change. Wow. My love for myself. I get it together. When I started to love Cheryl, it took a lot of years, but don't leave the room. I tried to leave several times, but my higher power wouldn't let me. And the transformation started to take place. So just keep coming back, I swear. Don't leave before the miracle. Thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that and that emotion.
It's my heart.
Yeah. And
I didn't want to cry.
there are so many here that love you, Cheryl. I mean, we have comments coming in like crazy like that. You are loved. Awesome. All right. One more question here from an anonymous member. Do you think it matters who you share your step 10s with? He said, or he or she says, I write them down and don't usually share them. I worry about who will share with my sponsor if my sponsor is not available. What are your thoughts on that?
I do. You know, we do have properly appointed authorities. You know, the big book says that. The meetings are not a place to just dump and just pour out your life to end. You do have a sponsor. There's some people that have sponsors that they don't trust. And, you know, you do have sponsees, but, you know, I think it's important to build a healthy network. And I have a healthy network. And I have a healthy network that has been with me through years, from my Al-anon days. I might not talk to on a regular basis, but I can reach out and share with somebody that I trust. And just like with me and Hattie, she's one of my recovery partners. We talk on a daily basis. I trust Hattie. So it's very important who you share, how you share, and what you share, and when you share. Absolutely.
I agree fully. And I love how you talked about creating that recovery network. The only way to create that is, well, attend meetings and get to know people there, get their contact information, and then pick up the stink.
That's right.
And then as I make those contacts and get to know those people, I then get to know who's safe to share my deepest and darkest things with. And that's good.
And one thing I want to say real quick before we wrap it up is that I used to go out and try to, I used to get all these numbers and call all these people and then complain and nobody calling me back. And, whoa, poor, it was me. And what's wrong? I remember in OA, I used to complain to my sponsor and she said, well, damn it, if they don't call you back and you can't get your 10 steps done, then create your own fellowship. And I did. I started the 10, 11 steps train that I ran for 3 years in OA, A Vision for You, that's still going on today. So I don't really share that quite often, but I started 10, 11 step train. And so the one thing that I say is that is very important is that, Nikki says it all the time. She created Spiritual Gangsters. You create the fellowship you love. You go out there and you carry the message and, people don't call you back or, God will direct you. So all the people that I thought I wanted this relationship with, I had all these phone numbers and boom, here God sends these 2 other people and we ended up connected for longevity. And also I say this, I said it yesterday, there's a season for everything. People don't come into everybody's not going to come into your life for longevity. Some are for short term, some are for a purpose, some are just for a message, and some are going to be there a while. Thank you so much.
Awesome. And I agree with that. And I love how Nikki puts it. Go out and create your own 100, just like it says in the big book. We won the 100. Go out and create your own 100.
It. And I just thought about, 11-step train. My sponsor said, go out and do it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. All right. Before we wrap up, do you have any final words of wisdom for us?
Oh my God. Just, don't leave the rooms. I'm just so grateful that, I wouldn't have a 40-year-long relationship with my best friend if it wasn't for recovery. My daughter wouldn't say, Mom, you're one of the sanest people I know if it wasn't for recovery. I would have left my marriage and I would have abandoned my stepdaughter. I wouldn't have did it the way I did it, looked them in the eye when I left my husband and my stepdaughter is still my baby. I wouldn't have been to that family event that night because I'm detached from my family of origin. And God kept on saying, go, go, go. And I said, no. He said, go, go. I have a 4-year relationship with my cousin, my mother's brother's daughter, his baby. We're like that. We're sisters. That's why he was sending me to that event that night. But if I had to listen to myself, where would I be today? God bless you all.
Thank you so much. And before I get to my closing reading, and then we close out with the compassion prayer that we'll get to here in a minute, I'm gonna close this up with a comment from Darren. Darren says, I so appreciate your tears and raw emotion today. I've been trying to figure out self-love with my mind, and I'm now realizing it's in my heart. Thank you for sharing your heart. It's not easy, but it's beautiful.
Somebody wanted my number. You can give it to him, Justin. I don't know how.
Okay, so what we'll do is I'll have you email me your phone number, and that person can reach out to me via email. So we don't have your phone number out here on in the world.
Great.
But email it to me. That person, give me an email at rico12pod.com. That's RECO12POD @gmail.com. rico12pod@gmail.com, and we'll get that relayed there. All right. So thanks again, Cheryl. That was a great RICO 12 weekly speaker meeting for all addicts and those wanting to learn more about addiction and the recovery therefrom. If we didn't get to anyone's question here, if you have other questions, please send them via email. I can connect you with Cheryl with those, or you can go to www.rico12.com/forum and join in our community and ask those questions and answer others' questions that may come up. I invite the audience to come back next week. If you've not yet rated or reviewed the podcast, please go do so now. It's a great way to work your 12th step. And next week, we will be hearing from Nancy B., who has been active in the rooms of recovery and sober since 1976. Her topic will be abstinence, no matter what. It should be a really good one. Now let's launch off into the rest of our day with the compassion prayer that Cheryl will be saying.
Okay, so let me pull it up. Thank you. It was so funny. I was going to do the set aside prayer. That was one of my favorites, but you all do it in the beginning, and I didn't realize that. I have a few favorites now.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so here's one of my favorite prayers, the compassion prayer. If there's a person in my life that I have a disturbance with, I would say this prayer. So I say it quite often. Just like me, this person is seeking some happiness for their life. Just like me, this person is trying to avoid suffering in their life. Just like me, this person has known sadness, loneliness, fear, and depression. Just like me, this person is learning about life. Amen.
Amen. I love that prayer. Thank you so much. Keep coming back, everybody. It works when I work it. So work it. You are worth it.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Standing still a moment, carving out this time, reflecting on the landscape of this life of mine. Peaks too high to conquer, streams too wide to cross, troughs too deep to walk through without incurring loss. Yet here I am, still standing tall, despite the rough terrain. One like me survived the storms and walked through wind and rain. Still standing, I will fight the good fight, still searching for glimmers of light, feet still on the ground. I can still be found, standing still.
My wings are torn and tattered, but I know I still